We are judged by the words Jesus speaks. He told us to believe his gospel. Then the gospel is what he spoke. If he taught us to believe in creation, he wouldn't go out and preach evolution, now would he? Jesus was single-minded and pure in heart. Paul speaks of us being judged by the secrets of our hearts, which means our beliefs. Our beliefs must be the gospel truth that Jesus told us. This parable talks about two types of people, the wise and the fools. Jesus says to us, "Why do you call me Lord and not do what I say?" We are wise if we believe and obey and live his gospel like he says to. Jesus says we are to repent of all other beliefs and only believe his gospel. This is not a formal command, but it really is. Belief in his gospel was the first thing Jesus said, and the most important thing on his mind and heart. So it should be the most important thing to us too, wouldn't you think so? But I call this the lost command of Jesus, because so few Christians understand and believe and receive and live his gospel truth. So they don't live in the power of God, in prosperity, in health, abundance, blessing, and even healing if they need it. We're called fools if we don't live the gospel. Paul calls us this if we deviate from the gospel. James even puts it in terms of hearing and doing. Jesus calls us his friends. Now we are his friends if we do what he says. But then John says that what Jesus tells us to do is not a burden like the Old Testament law was. Jesus even says his way is easy if we're yoked to him and to his gospel truth. Paul calls it the simplicity of Christ. We truly are fools if we don't do things God's way and live in his gospel. If we live the gospel, we build on the rock of God's truth. If we don't live it, we build on the sand. The rock is Jesus himself, and the rock must be our foundation, not the foundation of man, the theology of man, which is the sand. The gospel allows us to think God's thoughts and to know his ways. We must believe in Jesus, but also in the message of Jesus. There's always been a statement that really has touched my heart. Every truth we neglect believing and every duty we omit doing obscures some truth we might have otherwise known. This is certainly true of the gospel. Don't you think so?